Today, Bitcoin and Ether rise to close out the week with Bitcoin hitting another 2023 high. And Core DAO contributor Rines discusses Binance's settlement with U.S. government officials and what it means for the crypto industry. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Digital currencies held steady through the Thanksgiving holiday, having recovered from a big dip earlier in the week, with Bitcoin hitting a new high for 2023 on Friday. Bitcoin touched the $38,400 level for the first time since May 2022. That's according to Coinmetrics. By noon Eastern, it was higher by almost 2% at about $37,700 and ending the week higher by 4%. Meanwhile, Ether has moved back above the key psychological level of $2,000, trading more than 2% higher to end the day at just about $2,100. The second largest token by market cap outperformed the crypto market this week, ending up more than 8%. And then Solana, the big outperformer on the year, it's up more than 476% for the year compared to Bitcoin's 130%. It trailed the major tokens this week. It's hovering at about the flat line. All right, let's jump right into our main story. Broker Bernstein came out with a research report on Wednesday, arguing that Binance will still remain the dominant exchange in international markets. This is despite the outflows following news earlier this week that the world's largest crypto exchange settled with U.S. government officials. Its CEO, Changpeng Zhao, also pleaded guilty to charges against him and stepped down from his role. Crypto World's Talia Kaplan spoke with Core DAO contributor Rines about that research and what he thinks will change following Binance's settlement.
The world's largest crypto exchange was charged with breaking sanctions and money transmitting laws and agreed to pay more than $4 billion in fines to the U.S. government to settle the allegations. The founder of Binance, Changpeng Zhao, pleaded guilty in the U.S. to the charges against him and stepped down from his role as CEO. Now, data from Nonsense shows that Binance users pulled more than $1 billion from the exchange in the 24 hours after the news. So do you think Binance will survive all of this?
I think Binance will survive, and I think a little bit of market panic after big news like this is to be expected. I think if you saw like the days leading into the FTX crash, for example, you saw many orders of magnitude, or maybe not orders of magnitude, but many multiples higher in terms of capital kind of fleeing the exchanges. I think there's also like a U.S. regulatory angle here where a lot of customers might not want the U.S. government in that data pool, et cetera. So I think some amount of this is to be expected. Binance volume still remains strong. And again, they are the largest exchange by market share.
We learned that Binance's VIP users were granted a set of special privileges, including an early heads up if they were under investigation. That's according to the U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. What do you think about that revelation? Do you think that helped Binance establish its dominance as the world's largest crypto exchange?
I think they were, very aggressive. The crypto exchange landscape, primarily since 2017, when Binance really came to prominence, has been, different levels of aggression. Originally with BitMEX, then you saw Binance and others, start to compete with that. You still see smaller upstart exchanges doing that today. So I do think some amount of that is just endemic to the space. But I do think as the space matures, we're going to see more and more of that kind of cruft, wash out as time goes on. Those revelations certainly were very interesting and I think unexpected. But I do think there are positive elements to that where if they didn't find more damaging pieces that could have been, more similar to customer fund mismanagement like FTX, et cetera. So I think with some of the bad, that there was some of the good as well.
Bernstein argues that Binance will retain its international dominance after the settlement in the U.S., but acknowledges that it now expects increased competition from companies like Coinbase and other exchanges in regulated markets, including Singapore and Hong Kong. Do you agree?
I think competition is good for the space. I think Binance will continue to remain the leader, and this settlement helps ensure that. But I think the competition as the space continues to grow and mature will get more competitive. There's, of course, exchanges like Coinbase that have been above board since their founding and will probably make inroads in some of these other markets as they get to further regulatory clarity. But I think in general, like we'll watch this continue to grow and get more mature as a space, and competition amongst major players is to be expected.
So what do you think will change following the Binance settlement? What does this all mean for the crypto industry as a whole?
So I think JP Morgan put it the best when they said, one of the biggest systemic risks in crypto is now behind us. And I think that is the positive and correct way to view this. I think there was a lot of fear in the crypto market that they were going to find, customer fund mismanagement or other more serious things under the hood to question the general solvency of Binance. And it's great to see that those are all put to bed. Binance being able to continue to operate is also quite big because it is that fundamental crypto market infrastructure layer that all the other pieces really are built upon. So I think that's very good. And it really does pave the way to the ETF and some of these other developments as crypto takes center stage. And of course, next year should be a big year for crypto with the Bitcoin halving as well.
Now, you touched on this, but some other industry insiders argue that the settlement could be viewed as a partial victory for Binance and CZ, given that the crypto exchange will be able to continue operating. Some say that the settlement is a pivotal moment for the crypto industry, highlighting the need for crypto exchanges to prioritize regulatory compliance and to adhere to established financial laws and standards. What do you think about those statements, and what do you think comes next?
So I do think it's a win for Binance in this case, and a win for the crypto industry as a whole, as we see again the maturation of the industry. I think that maturation again does lead to further acceptance of major players, whether via the ETF or otherwise. But I think in general, like if you look at Binance and you look at other major exchanges like Coinbase and now Kraken, which has been in the news recently, everybody's asking for regulatory clarity and just the rules of the road, whether it's in the US or otherwise. And I do think that's on the horizon. We've seen some inroads from Europe and some other regions that are starting to lay best practices, Singapore as well recently. And I think all of that is now inevitable. And the space has now gotten to a point where it's going to exist. And now it's all about figuring out how the legacy infrastructure and the new infrastructure play in a legally compliant way.
Now, we learned that on top of paying billions in fines, Binance will be monitored for 5 years to settle charges with the U.S. Treasury Department's money laundering and sanctions watchdogs. But is that enough to restore trust in the crypto exchange? What do you think it will take for people to trust crypto again following what we learned about Binance this week, coupled with the trial of Sam Bankman-Fried that just wrapped up and all the details that came out related to what was going on at FTX, the crypto exchange SBF founded?
So crypto, like most industries, ebbs and flows, and crypto has kind of a savior complex, like many other industries do. And with every cycle, you get different actors that come to prominence, and then some of those turn out to be bad actors. They wash out, and then the space continues to grow and develop. And I think that's no surprise that we've seen that again. And this was crypto's biggest cycle to date. So we saw kind of the problems get to unprecedented levels. But in some ways, that's also a positive because now you're seeing the clarity be more desired and now coming into play for the first time, which is really important because this is what will help us get to a long-term stasis overall versus this kind of uncertainty. And crypto as a whole is no longer in the cowboy days of yesteryear. It's now a fully developed space, and it's important that it matures and grows.
How would you compare the Binance situation to the collapse of FTX?
I think they're very, very different. And I think it's important to think about, FTX was just pure fraud, and getting rid of FTX was, again, very, very net positive for the space. Binance, again, had, a lot of issues that have now been settled with the US. And there's a lot of pieces there that could definitely be improved upon. But I think it's very different to watch how these are going to manifest. FTX is gone. Binance will continue to exist. And I think that's really important. And they shouldn't be overlapped. They're very different sets of charges that were levied against both groups. And I think it's also important to compare like the FTX and Binance situation, which again are very different to like the Kraken or the Coinbase situations. All crypto exchanges are not the same and have been accused of very, very different things. And it's important to not convolute all of these different charges that have been happening. The Coinbase and the Krakens of the world is more regulation by enforcement, regulatory clarity issues versus these criminal charges that we've seen on the other side.
So in a nutshell, what's your outlook for crypto in 2024? Do you expect we'll see more charges against crypto companies and executives? And do you think there will be more scandals and bankruptcies coming to the surface? Or do you expect things will turn around next year?
It's always hard to talk in the crypto landscape, anything of like, a month or so out. But I think if you look at, 2024, I'm very optimistic. I think we'll see an ETF. I think that's a when, not an if at this point. I think we'll see major market events like the Bitcoin halving, which draws a lot of interest into the space, hopefully in a positive way. I think the U.S. election cycle will also play a role in that, hopefully as we get to greater regulatory clarity in the U.S. and then also overseas. So I'm very bullish that crypto as a space is now past that point of no return where it can no longer be ignored. And I think it's also important that in election years, you see a general distrust of institutions and all those other instabilities that society has to deal with, that crypto offers a viable solution to. If you go back to what Bitcoin was originally founded on, it was a reaction to the great financial crisis and all of the issues there. And I think people want to go back to hard assets and freedom preserving technology. And that's what crypto offers at its core.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World this week. We'll be back again on Monday, and we'll see you then.